Hello and welcome to the Romance Track here at Continual. I'm your host, Gail Martin and Morgan Brice. And tonight we are going to talk about romance and hearts and kisses and Valentines and all the good stuff. But before we dive into that, let's let our wonderful panelists introduce themselves, starting with Siera.
Hello, everybody. I'm Siera London, USA Today bestselling author of Women You Know, Heroes You Love, and Romance You Can Feel, and I'm excited to be here.
And we are thrilled to have all of you here. Quette.
Hi, I'm Quette, and I write savvy, sexy, and sensational romance. That pretty much means I write stories that are like Hallmark movies, but with lots of sex.
Very good. Layla.
And MMM and add some more M's to that romance. The steamier, the better. Rocker boys, biker boys, a little bit of contemporary, and a whole lot of shifters.
Very good. Chantal.
Hi, I'm Chantal Mayer, and I write MM romance, a lot of sports romance, and I write with Susan Scott Shelley. We have a nice little rugby series, and we're starting a hockey series soon.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Amy.
Making sure making sure I'm not muted. Okay. Hi, I'm Amy Ravenel. I write the Restless Spirit series for Falstaff Books. And basically that's about ghost hunters that hunt ghosts and fall in love. So it's got about as many ghosts as it does romance too. So
I can understand that. Liv.
Mhm.
Hello, I'm Liv and I write MM paranormal and historic, and sometimes paranormal and historic at the same time, because love is love, even with fangs.
Very true. Blake.
Well, I'm Blake Allwood and I write MM romance, but I also, under Adam J. Ridley, write fantasy and science fiction, all gay fiction.
Very good. And I'm Gail Martin and Morgan Brice. As Gail, I write epic and urban fantasy. As Morgan, I write urban fantasy, male paranormal romance with lots of ghosts and spooky stuff and lots of romance. So before we get into some of the other issues around some of the fun stuff about Valentine's Day and romance, what is it about Valentine's Day that does this prompt whole new ideas of stories for you, or is it just another day in the neighborhood for people falling in love? Is there something special when you write a Valentine's Day story or read one, or what's your thought there? Because Valentine's Day is one of those love them or hate them kind of things. Siera?
So I think there is some magic to Valentine's Day. And the reason why I say that is because it's a time where we slow down enough to look for love. Like we look for signs of love, like the little red hearts everywhere, or we think back to our childhood when our teachers had us exchanging cards, or those little chalky hearts that really don't do well with my teeth right now. I bypassed them in the store the other day, but I want to share in that experience. And I think it's a time where, we kind of share that universal love language. And you don't always see that every day, but I think February is a month where we do take the time to appreciate love, and not just between, like intimately, but even Galentine's Day or Palentine's Day, just sharing good vibes with other people. So it does make me want to write, and it makes me want to reminisce about my own magic, the magic of love in my own life. So yeah.
All right. Quette.
Well, I definitely think, as Siera said, there's magic in Valentine's Day. I mean, even as children, even today as an adult, my mother still sends me Valentine's gifts. So it's a little something to make me feel special, but it's also something to keep my husband on notice. So he knows that if I get something from my mother, I'd better get something from him too, or he'll never live it down.
And it better be better than what your mom gave
Exactly.
you.
And
Yeah.
exactly. And I do this too. I celebrate Valentine's. I give my kids Valentine's, and they, we shop and get things for their classmates for Valentine's as well. And I just think there's just something magical about acknowledging the fact that love is beautiful, right? Most of the year we can get a little cynical, and I think it's like the last of the holiday season where we still have a lot of that good cheer left over from the end of year holidays into the new year, and we're still feeling very hopeful about things. The year hasn't killed us yet. And then what's more hopeful than either celebrating all different kinds of love in your life or finding the special kind of love in your life. So I think it's pretty awesome.
Okay, Layla.
I think one of the coolest things about Valentine's Day is its versatility, especially in a story. I have done stories where I've done the characters doing anti-Valentine's Day things where they're kind of, feeling bitter and rejected about love. So they go and do something together and end up having this wonderful time and really discovering that the two of them together really are in love. Wow, look at that. Your anti-party turned into something cool. So I just really love that it's so versatile. You can do so much with it. You can have friends. You can have, you can have two enemies who end up forced to sit down and do something for Valentine's Day. Forced proximity is an awesome thing to play with. And that's just another trope that I really love. So I guess I really just have always loved the versatility of the day, and look back on when me and my friends used to throw these little Valentine's parties, little couple parties, and we would, make dinner and, sit down and hang out. Like, we thought we were doing something, little candlelight dinner at the picnic table out there as teenagers, and, just trying to make it just this really cool, special day for our little group of friends.
Okay, Chantal.
Yeah, so I mean, I kind of feel like I don't have a whole lot to add to what everyone else has said, but I mean, it is like one of those days. Like, I've never been like huge on it, but my stepfather used to always send my sister and I like a small bouquet of flowers when we were girls. He'd send my mom big bouquet, and then we would get a small bouquet. And I remember telling and honestly, he sent me flowers until I started dating my husband, and then he was out. I guess he figured like, okay, she's finally found the guy. But I remember telling my husband this, and so he does the same thing with our daughter. Like, she and she's 14 now. So every Valentine's Day he sends, and I just love that it's like, I think Siera and Quette, you were saying that like, it's like, it's more than just like this romantic love. It's love. It's, we're doing these things for our kids and for our friends and for, it's just nice. It's a nice thing. So even though I was never like really into it, as I've gotten older, I appreciate it a lot more.
Okay, Amy.
I hated Valentine's Day as a teenager because, I'm the loner, I'm the weird kid, I don't have a boyfriend, all the weird teenage things. But as I've grown older, I've started to appreciate it. And especially since, I met my husband. So we usually go very low key for Valentine's. We get each other candy, and then I force him to watch a rom-com. And that's pretty much, the way we celebrate Valentine's Day. But what I like to do is I like to break out my romances around this time of year when I'm selecting my books from month to month. So I like to like lean more into the romance end of things when I'm reading. So that's kind of what I love about Valentine's Day.
How about you, Liv? You're muted.
Muted.
You didn't hear my one-liner if I'm muted. I said, how about chocolate? Because, any holiday that focuses its attention primarily on chocolate it can't be bad, right? And then what
I
everybody
just want to
else
give you an amen.
And don't forget the day after Valentine with 50% off chocolate.
Yes.
That's the day to
Even better.
celebrate.
Even
Then
better.
if you catch it a week later, then it's at 75% off, and you can just snap that right up.
They never have any left a week later at our grocery store. How about you, Blake?
Well, so I come at it from a very different perspective. My husband and I had been dating for a few months when we went to St. Louis. We lived in Kansas City at the time, and basically that's when the magic happened. So that's officially our anniversary. You know, that two men weren't able to get married until 2015, and Chuck and I have been together for 28 years this February 14th.
Wow.
So it's a big deal for us.
Congratulations.
I also taught kindergarten. Oh, thank you. I also taught kindergarten, and you know, the kids loved two holidays. I mean, and you know, 5-year-olds really do help you break the world down. So Christmas was great, but yeah, I mean, you get presents and then you're done. None of them got Thanksgiving, but Halloween, that was big deal. And the second holiday that they absolutely loved was Valentine's Day. And you always wondered why, but I think it's because they knew how to draw hearts and cut them out. But also they love that. Someone mentioned the little heart candies. I think they're disgusting. I've always hated them, but the kids love them. So yeah, I love Valentine's. I think it's great.
I loved back in elementary school, first off, the excitement of picking out what Valentine cards, you know, from the ones that come in the long Z folded thing at the grocery store, and you could get superheroes, or you could get Disney princesses, or you could get all those. Well, that was like picking out your Halloween costume. That was a big thing because you had to get it right, you know. And then we'd make these Valentine boxes in elementary school, mostly with like paper doilies and crepe paper. And that was, so it was a mailbox, so people could put those little things in them. And then best use for the little chalky hearts is you glue the chalky hearts to the doilies. But I just remember that was so much fun. And we had teachers who were very good about saying, look, everybody gets, I don't care who's best friends with who, everybody gets a Valentine's Day, or we're not doing this. And then fast forward to college, my mom sent me a whole package of medjool dates one year. And the note was, so you'll always have a date on Friday night. So, you know, I agree, just a day to show people how much we love them, romantically or not, whether it's our kids or our friends, and have kind of societal permission to do that instead of being, you know, having this front up and saying, no, too good for that. I love that. And besides that, it's February and we need something in February because all the Christmas lights are down, it's dark, it's rainy, it's cold. We need chocolate. And personally, I think everybody should just cover their house and light up pink Valentine's hearts.
Wine, chocolate,
Yeah.
and wine.
Yeah.
Wine. But we need to do something that lights up, you know, so
If
just
you
think about
drink
that.
enough wine, you
Will
will
light
light up.
If you drink enough wine, you will get lit and then you won't care. So yes, I guess
Struggling with the idea that we're supposed to take our Christmas lights down. We're supposed to take our Christmas lights down?
Mine aren't yet.
Neither am
But in
I.
the South, you can have them all year round.
We can also take that wine bottle and put some fairy lights in there and turn that on, and there you've got Christmas lights all year round right on the shelf.
I love that. I love that. So we've mentioned a few things that are people's traditions for Valentine's Day, but do you or your characters have other traditions, like a favorite meal or a favorite restaurant or something that you love or they love doing to commemorate the day? Siera?
Yeah, so my husband and I love going away for like staycations for Valentine's Day. Now we've been together a long time, like 30 years now, but when we first met for Valentine's Day, because we worked in 2 different states, it would take deliberate effort to plan Valentine's Day. And so we did not want to sit in the house, right? So we would go somewhere, and it was usually on the water, and we would always have a huge seafood feast because that's what we did when we first met. up in Newport, Rhode Island, on the water. And so we would kind of repeat that. And then it got longer and longer, and it ended up being like 3 days away, and sometimes stretching into President's Day. So yeah, and I like to do the same thing with my characters. One of the books I wrote, Forbidden Attraction, my heroine is away. Now she's divorced. She's recently divorced, but she still buys a red bathing suit and takes herself to a luxury resort for Valentine's Day. And I love that about her, because she ends up meeting the right man, when she least expected it.
Okay. How about you, Quette?
Well, I don't think I have any stories that are set during Valentine's Day, but I do sort of take that sort of sentiment into how my characters treat each other or do special things for each other. The first book in my Devereaux Inc. series with Harlequin Desire, the hero, the story is set in Brooklyn, and the hero takes the heroine out on his yacht that's on the East River, and just wines and dines her and spends all this time like really making her feel like she is special. And so even though they don't really go anywhere, they just sit on the water, just that he takes so much time to really surprise her with this and take all of, she doesn't have to put in any effort. He's the one that has made all these efforts. And so I tend to write characters that are really into big overtures like that do really nice things. Again, Hallmark movies with lots of sex.
Okay. Layla.
When I was in high school, I lived in New Bedford, Massachusetts, so it is not very warm in February. A friend of mine had a camper in front of his house, and we were dating at the time. We'd been dating for several years, and we had 2 other friends who'd been dating for quite a while. So we decided to throw Valentine's Day as a couple and get some lobsters from down at the waterfront and get some, clams and some other things and cook them up, and, just take the paper cutout hearts and decorate this camper with it and sit out there with little, those bottles of grape juice that are sparkling grape juice. Cause at 15, 16, you can't have real wine. And we lit candles, and we had just this beautiful Valentine's Day for the 2 couples. And so right now I've actually got a book that's finally set around February in a cold place, and I'm getting to put that into the story, and having the 2 characters just having that really sweet, intimate moment where they can talk and they can hold hands across the table and, fight with the lobster claws that they're trying to crack open, and laugh because somebody's half claw goes flying across the room, and just have all the fun that we did as teenagers for that Valentine's.
All right. Chantal.
So when my husband and I, when we first started dating, we had only been dating a few months when Valentine's Day came, which is always so hard, like, because, what do you do? And I had just finished graduate school, and, we were poor, we were, and he came over to my apartment with a thing of strawberries and a thing of chocolate. And he melted the chocolate and hand dipped strawberries for me. So that's what we've been together now, what is it, like 27 years, I think. And so like, this is what we do for Valentine's Day. He will hand dip strawberries in chocolate. And when my kids were little, my son could care less. He doesn't care about any of, but my daughter, she was like 2 and was like, strawberries dipped in chocolate, like, this is fabulous. Like, she was like, this is awesome. And so she like every Valentine's Day would be like, is daddy dipping strawberries for us? Is he doing chocolate covered strawberries for us? And so I feel bad for whoever her she ends up with, because
He better have strawberries.
Strawberries and flowers. He has set the bar high. So that's just like, that's our thing. And we always have champagne with it. So yeah, that's our thing. It's nothing like that's really, it's just low key, but we do that. And like, in like actually the book that Susan and I are just finishing up, it kind of ends at Valentine's Day. But the one character is a florist. So Valentine's Day is his busy, like this is his busy season. So it's, about like how they celebrate Valentine's Day, like kind of after the fact. It's that sentiment. It's that, we can't do it on Valentine's Day because it's chaos for him. But about like doing those little special things that just show, I love you. It doesn't really need to be on the day.
Okay. Amy.
Well, I haven't written anything set around Valentine's Day, and my characters are usually dodging ghosts. So they have to find time to actually, have those nice moments. And I do have those slow moments when they take their time with each other and just breathe in between the fights, if you will. And especially with two of my characters, one is an empath and another one can see the past. And they both kind of rely on each other to sort of give themselves a break from the rest of the world and all the images that they see.
Okay, Liv.
So I might be the least sentimental person on this panel. My husband brings me flowers every year for Valentine's Day, and that's sort of our tradition. And I'm racking my brain to try to think. Irene and I, my writing partner and I, did a novella for a Valentine's promo thing, and it was, I think there's like one line in the whole thing that mentions that tomorrow is Valentine's Day, so blah blah. Yeah, it didn't. Other than that, it's about ghosts and psychics and completely unrelated to the holiday.
Okay.
But I appreciate everyone's efforts and stories. So there.
Blake. You're still muted. There you go.
Yeah. So the husband and I have anniversary things that we do. I grew up in Tennessee and then after college moved to Kansas City. So barbecue is a very important thing to me and the husband who grew up in Kansas City. So we usually go out for barbecue on our anniversary. We are not in Kansas City. I'm in an RV. I don't know if you can tell behind me that I'm on it's a quiet spot at the moment. When you live with two dogs, it's a commodity. So now we have to make our own barbecue, but regardless, we have a lot of fun with it. As far as my characters live, I can relate because as a moving into fantasy and science fiction, you just Valentine's doesn't really come up very often. But as a romance writer, I try to pay attention to it. I bring it in some. It is such a romantic day for me and my own life. I do find that, I do want to pull it in occasionally and to build it up with my characters. But I don't hit it very hard, and I don't have any books written for Valentine's Day yet.
Yet.
But, life is, I have time.
We like to go to a fondue chain, but you don't want to go on Valentine's Day because they shrink the menu, they jack up the price, you can't get what you really want. So we always go either, a week or two early or a week or two late so we can get the full menu and not pay double the price. But that's got the melted chocolate and the strawberries and the cheese. Don't forget the cheese. And, there's some other food in there too, between the cheese and the chocolate, but we know why we're going. So that's always fun. I took my husband on our first date around Valentine's Day, and I'd been crushing on him for such a long time. And now he was finally coming to town, and I wanted to show off my new town, which was Pittsburgh, and I wanted to impress him. And so I tried to pick an evening where we did all the highlights. So first I took him out to this place that did jazz and barbecue. Well, at the time, I found out later he wasn't really keen on barbecue, but that's okay, because now we're going to go to this this hotel bar that is on the river. It's on so you can see all the lights of the city, and it's so pretty. Well, at the time, it turned out he didn't drink, but that's okay because right next to the hotel, there's the Monongahela Incline that takes you up to the top of this big hill overlooking the city with these big overlooks that jut out off the side of the hill so you can see the rivers and the city. He didn't like heights. And so, but wait, there's one more thing. I've got tickets to the observatory and it's Pink Floyd. We're going to watch the stars overhead at the observatory. Yeah, I'm not a Pink Floyd fan. So I always say that he had to marry me to make me quit taking him on dates. He says that I have exaggerated that. Spoiler, I'm a writer, but it's been 35 years and he's still stuck around. I have two stories that are set specifically on Valentine's Day. One is Cover Me, which is a Badlands story. And my psychic character finds a mystery around these old love letters from World War II that were between a pilot and his lover, whom he had to leave behind and of course keep secrets. So there's a secrecy there because two guys, World War II. But it's a really sweet ghost romance because at this point, one of them's waiting for the other and they finally get together. And then I'm in a new collection of romances for Valentine's Day called Love and Valentines at Canham Castle, shared world, multi-author. And it's a Kings of the Mountain story where Dawson and Grady go for their honeymoon. There's a little bit of business, giving an offering to the Fae for the family agreement. And oh, there's a hellhound and they might get trapped in fairy. Happy anniversary, or happy honeymoon. So, but yeah, that's pretty much where I am on Valentine's Day. And I never took my husband out for another date quite like that again. But anyhow, what kind of grand gestures made an impression on you in rom-coms or something you've read or a movie, or that your characters have made that, that big gesture, whether it's holding the boombox over their head or not? What have your characters done to really show they're all in? Siera?
Okay, that's a hard question because I'm trying to think back through all of my books, but I know one that Quette mentioned last week when we were talking about romances to read was in one of my books, the heroine is a real estate agent. And so the hero hires her to get rid of a ranch that his father left him because he got daddy issues. And they go to this ranch, against her will. She's like, I don't want to be bothered with you. I don't like you. And they get there and she falls in love with this ranch. And, he takes her for the horse ride. There's still snow on the ground. There's that close proximity piece to it because they're staying in the main house with the caretakers. And what I like is that he decided to keep the ranch, not because he loved it, but because she loved it. And she had an appreciation for what his father was trying to do to repair the relationship. And so I love that in the book that Diesel gave love a chance, not just with Mandy, but in a relationship that he had with his father that had gone sour, by spending time with her and seeing the ranch through her eyes, he grew to appreciate something that he and his father, that he loved as a boy, and that he still loved horses and spending time in the open land. And that was something that his father had taught him that he carried through as an adult. So I love that aspect of it. And to me, buying real estate, especially at today's prices, is definitely a grand gesture.
It's true. Almost as expensive as they. Look what.
Oh, wow. I think, there have been a couple in my books. I think one that comes to mind is in A Very Intimate Takeover, Jeremiah, not in a very intimate takeover, in Backstage Benefits, the hero has trust issues because his last love interest, who also worked with him, he's a producer, a television producer, basically stole some of his work product, gave it to someone else, her new boo, and her new boo winds up as his nemesis, and he winds up getting the job that the hero wants. And so he's, still a little bit bitter about that. And when he meets the heroine in Backstage Benefits, he has come to this idea that he does not share credit for his work with anyone. Like, his ideas are his ideas, and he's not willing to let anyone work with him on those ideas so they can share credit. And he wants her to star on this television show for him, and she refuses to do it unless he makes her like a producer, a co-producer. And he gives her like an assistant producer credit just to shut her up. But in the end, is the grand gesture when he's trying to prove to her that he's done with all of that mistrust and he really loves her. He gives her a revised contract that lists her as an executive producer on the show. And so she realizes that his ability to allow her to share in his ideas and creativity is his way of really truly showing that he loves her.
Nice. Layla.
Well, in my last Rocktoberfest book, Bleeding Dawn, the characters are kind of sitting around and they're talking about how they got into music. And, just one of the characters had actually won this guitar. He'd gotten to get up and play at this concert. It was kind of loosely based on a story a friend of mine told me it happened at a real concert. And so going, in that trend, I'm writing this coming Rocktoberfest, and I'm thinking, all right, this latest group, they're talking about their history with music. And one of them talks about getting backstage, which was something I always loved to do. And you get that signed concert t-shirt, and you wear it to death. I mean, this thing goes through mosh pit after mosh pit and mud and rain and everything. You wear this thing until it is in tatters, and then you hang it on the wall. Well, somewhere along the line, his got destroyed. So the big grand gesture is that his partner actually goes on, the eBay and all the sites and finds this old shirt. And then uses, by now they've made it big, uses their contacts in the music industry to get it signed by the person who signed the first one, and will give it to him on Valentine's Day after a show. So that is my grand gesture that I'm working on right now.
Nice. Chantal.
So I kind of like the, I don't know if it's necessarily a grand gesture, but I like when the love interest notices like these little details. So like that they're paying attention. And so in the book that Susan and I are finishing up called Stay, it starts at around Christmas. And so there's the character knows that his love interest really likes this one singer, and she happens to be in Philly for the tree lighting. So he finds out that day, he surprises him, and they get to see this woman. And then later in the book, he knows someone who knows her and has her record a little message to him. And it's not really a grand gesture, but it's like this detail, like, I know you like this person, or I know, I like that. I like that when the love interest is paying attention and you see it come out in these little ways.
Okay. Amy.
I love a good grand gesture. Like Adam Sandler singing to Drew Barrymore on the plane in The Wedding Singer, But as far as my books, I think the biggest grand gesture I have is in the third book. Now, each book follows a different member of the team. Each one kind of gets to be the center stage. And in the third book, my heroine, Tabitha, gets sucked into a portal into a pocket dimension. So the big grand gesture is her husband, Aaron, is trying everything in the world to get her back. And then he finally jumps into the portal after her to find her. Now, things don't go according to plan, of course, but he did try.
That works. Liv.
So more often than not, my characters are trying to survive whatever the grand battle finale thing is happening. So the closest I think that I've done to a true grand gesture is Lost and Found, which is a gay romance set in 1920 Paris. One of the heroes was a physician in the US Army, and his best friend from like school was in the army as well, and they had planned to meet up in Paris after the war, and he can't find his best friend. And so he goes to Paris to try and find him, thinking maybe the guy went ahead of him or something. And he meets Louis, who's a dancer, and together they try and find his friend. And through it all, Benjamin knows that he's going back, he's going to find his friend, and then he's going to go back home to Vermont. And things don't quite go as he's planned. So he doesn't find his friend, but finds out about his friend, and leaves Louis, goes back to Vermont, who now at the time when he's leaving, they actually had a relationship, and goes back to Vermont and gets home and realizes that he's not the same guy that grew up there, and that he's seen too much and experienced stuff that the people in town just can't appreciate. And oh, by the way, he's in love with this guy in Paris. So he goes back and sort of shows up at the rooming house where they both lived, and that's about as close as I get to romantic.
How do you keep them down on the farm after they've seen Paris? Blake?
Well, I love grand gestures. I mean, I think that is such a great way to express, love. If you've got a lot of stuff going on in your books, where they're just trying to get to the point where they are able to be in love, or able to express their love for each other, those grand gestures are a great way to kind of just pull everything together and then send everyone on their way. I'm also in the Rocktoberfest group, and of course, on stage, declaring your love, tears flowing, crowd screaming and yelling. I mean, that's a great way to end it. My melody series, they all have really significant grand gestures. It's really kind of hard in your fantasy worlds to pull a grand gesture in, because like Liv was saying, you're just trying to survive through the book. So, but my Witch Brothers series, that's really my crossover. It was the first time I've tried to do fantasy. So it's my crossover from from romance into fantasy. And all of those books, each brother had a stone that represents whatever element they are there, that are their strengths. And so at the end of each book, the grand gesture or grand event, probably is more accurate, is the stone would become part of them as a tattoo or something like that. And so, but it really does culminate the story. And I've got a book that's coming out in March, the fourth book of the Witch Brothers series, and it's the ocean, and there's selkies involved.
Nice.
And so, yeah, so I used that one. There's a huge tidal wave that comes in that gets controlled, and then the selkies swim up to the top of it, and then with the declaration of their love, the sapphires become. Anyway, it's really fun. It was fun to write. I just really enjoy them. I like to end on a high note, because I do beat the crap out of my characters. I believe in a happily ever after. I believe everybody should work really hard for it. So all of my books are pretty intense. So they deserve that big finale.
Well, and I agree with Amy and Liv in terms of, my characters are trying to survive. They're usually ghosts or magic or things like that involved. And I think probably the grandest gestures in Witchbane, where my main character is chasing this dark witch. He finds out that the guy that he's accidentally fallen in love with is the witch's next intended sacrifice. So he figures out where the ritual is going to be held. And he doesn't really think he'll make it through saving the guy, but he's got to save the guy he's fallen in love with, even if he doesn't make it out himself. And so at this point, there are explosions and there's magic and there are more explosions. And yes, obviously they make it out because we're now in the 6th book in the series. But it's a pretty grand gesture because he really doesn't expect to live through it, but it's all to get the guy he loves to safety. And I think that's pretty grand. Well, folks, we are almost out of time, so I want to go around again and have everybody say if you have a new, recent, or upcoming book or a Valentine's Day book, let us know what it is and let us know where people can find you online. Siera?
All right. Well, that certainly went by fast. So I actually have a couple of Valentine's book over my shoulder. I'm bad with this background, but the Forbidden series, and here's another book in the Forbidden series, but there's romance in there. And then I have a book called Red Velvet, where definitely that's all about Valentine's Day and a sexy librarian with her sex journal and the fantasies that she has. So definitely love Valentine's Day and have a few Valentine's Day books in my catalog. You can find me online at sierralondonauthor.com. And then I have 3 books coming out with Forever, the Calvary Brothers. And so those will be on pre-order come April.
Very good. Quette?
My next book comes out actually tomorrow. I have, well, it's an early release on Harlequin's website. The book is called The Designs on a Rancher. It's the 2nd book in the Texas Cattlemen's Club, The Wedding series. And you can buy it early tomorrow on the Harlequin website, or you can wait until it's wide if you buy your books from other places on February 21st, I believe. So it'll be about 3 weeks apart between the individual and the wide release, but it's going to be available tomorrow. So check it out. It's really fun. Also, you can find me at dot.cards, CARDS /Laquette, LAQUETTE. And it has all my socials there, all my contacts. So hope to hear from you.
Cool. Layla?
This is actually release day for me. I just released book 4 of the Comet Lake Chronicles, Outlaw Redeemed. Came out this morning. I'm working on book 6 now, so I've got a little space there, but you can find me all over social media. I'm on Instagram, I'm on TikTok. I just this past 6 months got the rights back to all my books, so I'm self-publishing everything. So I'm kind of building everything from the ground up again. So if you name the social media, I'm trying to learn about it and get on it.
I understand. Chantal?
So Susan Scott Shelley and I have the final book in our Love and Rugby Season of Love series, which is a spin-off series from our Love and Rugby series, and that's Stay, and that will be coming out in February. And it runs from like a little bit before Christmas through like Valentine's Day. It's not really a Valentine's Day book, but we kind of end on Valentine's Day. And you can find me at chantalmayer.com or shelleyandmayer.com. That's Susan Scott Shelley and my website. And then I'm on social media as Chantal Mayer. So.
Very good. Amy?
Okay. My series is the Restless Spirit series. If you're looking for a fun, cozy horror with some romance, heavy romance in it to read for Valentine's Day, you can go with my series. I've got 3 books in it right now. It starts with White Spirit, and the other 2 are Cursed Spirit and Trap Spirit. The 4th one, Hunted Spirit, should be out sometime this spring, but I don't have an official date yet. I'm working on it though. And you can find me at amyravenel.com.
Okay. Liv?
It was real quick writing Amy Ravenel down so I can go look up. My next release will be hopefully in April. The book is called The Lighthouse Keeper. It's Victorian era Gothic witches and fog and mist and fun. And we're gonna just getting started editing that, and we'll have it out in April. And I am on most social media. Some variation of Live Rancourt, so liverancourt.com, and all of the usuals. And I actually this last week joined the 21st century and signed up for TikTok account. So wish me luck.
How about you, Blake?
All right, so you can find me at blakeallwood.com. You can also find me on Facebook way too often. I have been hoarding books for a couple years, so I will be rapid releasing those this year. I will be releasing over a dozen books this year. Most of those are the Coming Home series, which is it's all about going back home to Tennessee. It's where I grew up. Very conservative. This is a different kind of town where people are embraced and loved, and people live in harmony, and it's happy. There are no sex scenes in this series, which is new and different. I did write it because I wanted libraries to be able to use it. To be honest, I wrote it for Hallmark when Hallmark was talking about possibly wanting to have series that they can publish on their on Hallmark Channel. Their publishing company went under just recently, but that was the goal. So these are very sweet, high drama, high emotion. I also have several fantasies that'll be coming out this year. A lot of them are shared worlds and anthologies. As Adam J. Ridley, that pen name begins to get itself caught up. So stay tuned. I have a lot going on this year. I may not survive it, but at least you'll have plenty of things to read.
Very good. Well, I've got my newest one is Light My Way Home, and that is about a lighthouse keeper who is a medium and the ghost that he falls in love with. So stay tuned for hot ghost sex. It's a thing. And it is a prequel to my Treasure Trail series, which is set in Cape May, New Jersey. So it's the Cape May Lighthouse that Monty is the keeper of. And then mid-month, we have Love and Valentine's at Canham Castle, which is the shared world series with the fictitious British castle in town, multiple authors. Mine is the male-male story that ties into my Kings of the Mountain series. All the rest of them are male-female. But this is the 5th book in the Canham Castle series. So we've gotten kind of fond of the castle and the town, and it's always fun to go back. I'm pretty easy to find online at gailzmartin.com, morganbrice.com. Spell those right and you'll find me on all the socials. But most of the time you can find me here on Continual. So thank you all so much for a wonderful evening. And thanks to all of you for watching and listening. There will be more romance coming up on Continual. So we'll see you online.